So what helped me in those cases is to really finding my inner compass. And what that means is I asked myself a simple question. What is the kind of life that I want? What do I want? And what are my strengths, my values, and my drivers? So to give you an example, going back to Italy, in that situation where I did not know the language, from having a job to not having a job, from being single to being married, not having my family around me, I was in a situation where I was feeling quite helpless for a while, right? Because I didn't know what to do. I mean, I cannot even speak the language. I cannot even go out, cannot even talk to people. So what do I do? And in that situation where I had a lot of time to myself, didn't know anyone in the country, the question that I kept asking myself is, what is it that I want to do? What kind of a life do I want? Because there are all of these factors that are outside of my control. But what is in my control is my reaction. So, what is it that I want, irrespective of whatever is happening around me? What is it that I want? And in order to get that, what are some of my strengths? What are some of my values? What are some things that are very important for me? What drives me? What motivates me? So this is, till this point, what these are some things that I want to share with you based on my journey, is having this a positive attitude towards change. And at a point where you see everything around you is changed, turning to that inner compass that you have and asking yourself these questions. What is that? What is it that I want? What is my vision? What are my strengths, values? What are my drivers? Building your change endurance. And why is that a topic? What is change endurance really? So the difference that we are facing these days is the rate of change. You must have heard about the VUCA environment where things are constantly changing. There is uncertainty. You start getting used to one change and then you have 5 more changes to deal with. So that is why the topic of change endurance becomes really important, which is how do you not just survive, but thrive in constant change? Not just one big change that you have to deal with in a year, but changes that are coming at you every single day, right? So that's the concept. That's what I want to attack at today. So, how do we do it? This is the approach that I like to talk about it. So, in order to survive and thrive in constant change, there are 3 topics to talk about. The first one is really your mindset, because your mindset is how you view change, how you relate to change, how you think about it. So, like in my story, in my mom's attitude that this is going to result in something good, that completely changed the way in we as a family approach the changes. There were other families who would kind of go into a depression every time they had this prospect of changing cities. And I know of families where the fathers were refusing the promotions because the family could not deal with this disruption of moving every 3 4 years. So your mindset of how you see the change, how you approach it, how you relate to it is the number one factor if you want to survive and thrive in constant change. The second topic is leading yourself. So how can you yourself lead through change? Because till the time you have not made that journey yourself, you cannot help others. So those of you who are team leaders, if you are not in a good place yourself, you're going to transmit the same to others. So as a leader, first of all, you have your mindset, you have to be in a good position, and then you can lead others through it. So basically what this does is it talks about 2 different concepts, change and transition. So change is what happens outside of us, right? A new boss, moving cities, a new job, getting fired, COVID, all of that is change that is happening outside of us. What this concept is saying is The outside, what happens is change, but what happens inside is transition. So in order to go through the change, we go through this transition. And this is what everyone goes through. It's basically psychological reactions to change is what transition is. And these are actually two models on top of the other. One is the bridges transition, which says that transition happens in three phases. So the first phase is let go, where you are letting go of whatever you're used to, whatever you're comfortable with. You're letting go of that. The second is the neutral zone, where you have let go of the old thing, but you have not yet fully embraced the new thing. And the third is the new beginnings, where you are starting, you're making those baby steps and you're moving ahead with a new change. So that's the first model. That's the three columns you see. The second thing here, which is more common, is the Rubler-Ross change curve, which talks about all of these emotions that you can see on the screen, right? The denial, anxiety. So when the first time the change is introduced, there's denial, anxiety, shock, fear, anger, like all of these emotions that we go through as we are going through this change curve. Another reason that why it's important to understand this is what you see in the middle, performance dip. So if this curve is your normal performance, if this is your own performance or the performance of the team you're leading, when people are in this middle ground, when they have already let go of whatever where they were, and they still haven't embraced the new, this is where the performance dips. This is where people feel the most stress. They might feel depression. They might say like, oh, I don't know what to do. It's like a state of limbo. So both for yourself and for the teams that you lead, it's important to guide people through this team and reduce this performance dip as much as possible. So we're going to start talking about the mindset, which is what can I do? How can I relate to change in a more positive way to help me thrive in constant change? So at the end, this is what, these are all the questions. This is what it will look like. You will have what is the change? What will change? What will remain the same? What concerns you the most? What opportunities can this change bring? What existing strengths will help you manage? What you need to learn? And who can you count on for support? Right? So this is like the first part of the exercise. Where might I be resisting the change? So based on all the good work that you've done on the previous page, answering all of these questions, stay a little bit with yourself and think, where could you be resisting the change? And when we think of this, it's helpful to think from three different perspectives. What is my mind saying? What is my heart saying? And what is my gut saying? I don't want to explain it to you, but I want you to try it out and then share with me what you found. So Deepika says, 1 to 8 reflected as a happy change for me, something that I may look forward to. Okay, that's great. Mind, I will fail. Heart, you can do it. Gut, you can find it. Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. Only 0.4 is the question I need to ponder on. How am I going to manage the change? Okay. First exercise helped me confront the niggling doubt and fear, though it is not too big, but it still affects. Accepting it makes me feel relieved. Okay, that's fantastic. I resist change in question 4. What concerns me the most? And question 7. What I'll need to learn to manage. In my mind is telling me it may take a long time to learn and cause discomfort. Based on this reflection exercise, when I'm coaching leaders, this is what it comes to. Based on everything that you have discovered before, how can you shift your mindset to look at this change? How can you look at this change a little bit more positively? So some of the answers you already might have gotten, because as you're going through the exercise, you can feel your mindset shift. But the things that are left, it could be some things that you have to learn. It could be talking to a few people. It could be a few other things. But what are the things that come to your mind that you can do to shift your mindset around this change? And this is what concludes the self-reflection exercise to lead effectively through this change, what behaviors can you start, stop, and continue doing? So, because right now, after you do the reflection exercise, it could be that you found a new positivity around this change. But once you go back, you get into your routine, it could be that you lose sight of it. So it could be that, every morning I want to do like a 5 minutes mindfulness where I'm reminding myself that this change can actually be positive. It can be whatever behaviors that are going to help you continue to think positively and have a positive mindset around the change. The second thing is leading yourself. How can you lead yourself through the change? So now your mind is in a good place, but then what are some things that you can actually do to lead yourself through this change? So let's look at that. I'm just going to quickly check the chat to see if there are any questions there. Okay, great. So here, I want to talk to you about 5 shifts. So when we are faced with change, generally there are certain behaviors we display that might or might not be helpful as we want to lead through change. So here I want to talk to you about 5 shifts that will make it possible for us. That is, make us possible to actually thrive in change, not just survive the change. The first shift is from reaction to reflection. And that is a little bit of what you experienced here today when you did the self-reflection exercise, right? And you could see the change that it brings about. So as soon as you get, you come to know about this change, the first block of emotions you experience, from denial, shock, anxiety, all of those things. So create a little bit of space where you can sit and reflect and process your emotions and think about. And you have a great set of questions in the self-reflection exercise that can help you do that. So that's the first shift, from reaction and feeling all of these emotions to reflection, to make more sense of what the change really is. The second is from challenges to opportunities. So our brain is naturally wired to protect us from the threats. That is how the brain is. The function of the amygdala, which is a small, organ in the brain, is to protect us from threats. So we are naturally wired to get attracted to what might be a threat in our environment. But if you have to develop a positive mindset, in the exercise that we did, we already identified what are we concerned about, what could be some of the opportunities. Try to push yourself to think about the opportunities. And the exercise that you did will help you in this regard as well. And this is something that I have seen, while coaching leaders, even people who are going through. So 3 of the leaders I'm coaching now are being laid off from their organization. And after doing a lot of this work around, what is the change? What are their values? I think one of you had asked me this, Rupa had asked me this question: why are the values important? Why are our strengths important when we are going through change? The reason that it's important is that when you're going through change, when change basically gives you a chance to start something from new, to start afresh. It can be a small thing or a big thing. And when you have the chance to start something afresh, it's an opportunity. So you want to take the opportunity to do something that is more meaningful for you than what you were doing. So in the case of these 3 leaders that I was coaching, all 3 of them actually said that actually my career was in a rut. And if the company had not fired me, I would have quit my job in the next 1 year. So this change, which was, initially they were like very worried and stressed about it, of being fired, it was actually giving them an opportunity of finding a job that would be more meaningful for them. One of them wants to turn an entrepreneur. So in these situations, where the status quo has been broken, it's an opportunity for you to take a next step that can bring you closer to your purpose, to do something that is more meaningful for you. And in order to identify what is meaningful for you, that's where you turn to your values. I can share one of my personal stories with you. So, when I was in Chicago till 2 years back, and we were very well settled. We had bought our house in the US. I was in a job that I loved, earning very well. I'd worked very hard to get where I was, and I was very happy, enjoying it. What happened was that because of immigration issues, our green card got denied in the US. That was the Trump era, right? So our green card got denied, and we had 6 months to leave the country, which means that we would not have jobs in 6 months. We did not know where to go. We had not lived in India for 20 years, so coming back to India is not a very easy option for us, right? So this was the situation we were in, and we decided to come back to Italy because we have the citizenship here. So this was for me a really big challenge because I could feel everything that I have worked towards just falling apart. Like I had nothing left, no job. The house we had, really built so lovingly together, we had to leave it. Um, Again, starting from scratch, what to do. So in this state, I again went back. It wasn't easy. I went through my own, change curve. But again, I went back to the same question that I always ask myself in a disruption. What is it that I want? What is the kind of life that I want to create? What are my values? What do I want at this stage of my life? And it became very clear to me that right now I want to become a full-time coach. I had been thinking about it for the last 3 or 4 years, but just that safety of that, your salary coming in every 2 weeks, working with people you love. I would never have done, I would have never taken this plunge had we continued in the US. So this entire disruption of being forced to leave the country, forced to leave my job, forced to leave everything and starting from scratch, that also gave me the possibility to think about my values. What is it that I really want? What will give me meaning? What do I want to do? So yes, it's a big challenge, but it could also have opportunities. But in order to see them, you have to get your mind in a place of positivity. So I hope that that gave you some kind of insight into how can you overcome a challenge, or how can you overcome a setback or a failure. And a lot of the times, what seemed like a setback at that time, now if I look back, and I'm sharing with you that if that setback hadn't happened, I wouldn't be here today doing what I'm meant to do. Like, coaching is my calling. If that setback hadn't happened, maybe I would have spent 20 more years in the corporate world. Who knows? So, that's what it is. Shift your attention from challenges to opportunities. It's not easy. I'm not saying any of this is easy, but it's possible. Okay. The next shift from isolation to connection. So this is also a very natural reaction that we have, that when we are feeling low or we are feeling down or when we are anxious, we tend to distance ourselves from everyone. It's a natural reaction, but this is the time when you need to reach out. Again, the exercise that you did on who can I count on for support. Make an intentional effort to reach out to those people. Connection, it's so important for well-being. It's important for stress management. It helps to overcome fatigue. It helps to build resilience. So there are so many benefits of connection. So just be aware that when you are going through this kind of, like change, uncertainty, ambiguity, your natural tendency might be to distance yourself from others, but what you need to do actually is to reach out. That will also help you overcome. Maybe you'll be able to learn things. Maybe somebody can point you in a different direction. But make that as part of your resources to be able to, thrive in change. This one I love. Shift your focus from what you cannot do to what you cannot to what you can control. So this has been the story of my life, through all of the country changes or whatever you all might be facing. There's so many things. In India, it's always family, friends, responsibilities, right? All of those things that you cannot control. So here, if you have, I don't know how many of you know about the circle of control and the circle of influence, sorry, the circle of concern and the circle of control. So anything that you're worried about and concerned about goes in your circle of concern, from like COVID, government, traffic, pollution, job, boss, family, all of those people that you're concerned about, but you cannot control. And within that, there's a smaller circle. And these are the things you can control. And most of it is yourself. It's you, your mindset. What do you choose to do? What do you want to do? So the more time you spend focusing on what you cannot control, the more you will feel helpless, like a victim. The more you focus, so bring your focus to, okay, this is whatever it is, like, okay, I'm in a country where I don't speak the language, I don't know anyone. What can I do? I can go to a language school. I can start looking for a job, right? So that's the shift from what you cannot to what you can control. And it will immediately help you feel more empowered. This is the last one, shift from doing to well-being. This is again another natural urge that many of us have, that whenever something is coming that we are not comfortable with, we'll immediately jump to doing a lot, right? Get super busy, just do this, do this, do this, do that. But in the times that we are living these days, where it's not going to be just one change today, it's like a new change every day. What is really important is to focus on our well-being. So in the short run, if you have to reduce doing some things, but taking out time for your self-care, the time for mindfulness, for exercise, for eating right, that's going to be so important to help build some of that resilience, that inner resilience, to be able to face setbacks when they come. How to identify your strengths. Yeah. So again, first of all, you can start by reflecting. So think about what feedback you have received. What do people compliment you on? If you are working in an organization, if you're working with clients, what do people say you're good at? Right? So it can be your own analysis, your own assessment. It can be what other people have told you. It could be reaching out to people who are close to you and asking them, what do you think my strengths are? It could be looking at your past successes and thinking of, okay, what are the strengths that I used to be really successful? So these are just some initial ideas.